Eli, how you doing, Eli? Favor, can you let me know how the audio is coming in? Is that right for you? Mark, how you doing? Mark Burbo, how you doing? Michael B, how you doing? Max Strong, how you doing? So, yeah, favor, if you guys can you let me know how the audio's coming in? I'm trying out a totally different new system, so I got no idea how it's going right now, or how the audio's sounding right now. Charles Mullins, how you doing? Michael B, Johnny Dingle, Polynesian Pip, how you guys doing? Fergie Oliver, thanks. Appreciate that. Charles Mullins, yes. Loud. Okay. We'll see how it is once the music stops. If it's still overly loud, we'll tone it down a bit. Abstract Fitness, how you doing? Troy Rivers. Troy Rivers, first time I've seen you here. Welcome aboard. News Junkie 3000 sounds okay. Great, appreciate that, guys. Crispy. Need more bass? Too much treble? Okay, I'll turn it down just a bit. So hopefully this will be a somewhat better for you guys. So yeah, a lot of things going on. That's for sure. We'll try and work our way through it because there are just so many things going on, and then I come across this new thing just this morning. I'll bring up. I think you guys will either have a good laugh or I just hope it doesn't frighten the others. But it's just totally amazing. Ventura, how you doing? David Tate, Craig Gower, Australia. Good day. How you doing? And with that, I guess we'll go ahead and get started. Hello again, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira, and this is the live stream where a lot of things seem to happen when you least expect it, but that's that's the fun part of live streams, I guess, sometimes. But I'm glad you all could be here wherever you are. I've seen a lot of people from Australia, East Coast, appreciate that. Some guys from Europe, appreciate that. Looking at some of the names, some familiar faces, Truth Teller out there, Calhoun Busby's out there, and then there are some new guys. I think Matthew Flowers. I've never seen your name before, so appreciate you coming on board. Um, like always, if you are new to this channel or you have not already done so, please do subscribe. Go ahead and click on the bell to be notified on updates and give us a thumbs up if you like what we do. And as always, you can find us on social media. Our website is silverbullion.com.sg. We are a precious metals dealer over in Singapore, and that is our website. Facebook, Silver Bullion SG. Twitter, Silver Bullion PL for private limited. The audio versions can be found on bit.ly, bit.ly /SBTV iTunes and /SBTV Spotify. And if you have that app, Telegram, go ahead and join our group Crisis Tracker, where we go ahead and we talk about things that look pretty interesting as far as financial, economic news, gold and silver news, of course. So we do hope you join that group. It's steadily been growing, and we appreciate you guys that have been coming on it. Upcoming guest, we're going to have Jeff Deist, and we're going to have Luke Groman. Glad to have these two gentlemen. And then we're going to have David Stockman and Michael Pento. So it's a pretty good lineup that's coming on. And I think this week it's going to be Jeff Deist. Jeff, he is the president of the Mises Institute, where he serves as a writer, public speaker, and advocate for property markets and civil society. He previously worked as a longtime advisor for Chief of Staff to Congressman Ron Paul, for whom he's written hundreds of articles and speeches. So make sure you guys click on the bell and be notified on these updates so you won't miss these interviews. So How's everybody doing? Polynesian Pip, how you doing? Joe Costello, Michael B. Let's see, Andre, Andre Bedoy, watching this. All right, I guess I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you, my friend. Three Oliver, 3 a.m. in France. Olivier, sorry, American, right? We always pronounce French names wrong. Olivier, how are you doing? Um, 3 a.m. Okay. Saint Longinus. When will you have Stockman? I think he may be coming up in a couple weeks. Should be somewhere around there. David Stockman. Um, okay, so let's see. Let's see. Matthew Flowers. I can't get silver locally, but we are always behind the curve. Yeah, I think with silver there is some daylight at the end of the tunnel. I think it is starting to come back onto the market, but from what I've noticed, it's mostly the bigger bars. Still getting the smaller coins, the Maples Eagle. Still, it is doable, but it's still kind of tough to do right now. Still, okay. So Fergie Oliver, Pento is great. You know, Michael Pento, he's been putting out some really great info, which is why we were thrilled to get him on. Kaui Kaneokoa, aloha. How you doing? Hope everything back in Hawaii is doing great. Polynesian Pip, aloha as well. I saw your comment a bit earlier. Truth or nothing, precious metals are severely manipulated. Yeah, yeah, that is true. Um, Comment from Kaui Kaneokoa. Mises Institute is legit freedom. That is true, and that's why we went and we chose to get Jeff Diced again. It'll be a second time on. Um, he, I know he's going to have a bunch of good things to say, so we'll be really glad to get him on. So anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at, I guess, the silver and gold price. I'm kind of hesitant to look at it, but we'll go ahead and look at it. And gotta warn you guys, this is a new system form I'm using, so it may be laggy here and there, but we're gonna go ahead and try it out. So again, apologies ahead of time if things really start to get screwed up. But this is our website, silverbullion.com.sg, and taking a look at silver and gold price. Gold dipped under 1700 again, just slightly under 1700. Silver is dipping under $15 an ounce as well. So both metals a little bit on the downside this morning in Asia. And taking a look at that silver to gold ratio right now, we're at 113 and a half. Simply means it takes about 113 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. And if anything, what that means is, especially anytime if it's over 80, it's surely a good time to buy silver. So you want to take advantage of that as best you can. And also on the website, again, do head over to it. You can download this free investor kit. A lot of good info on here. So take advantage again of that. Um, it's free, and we'll wait for this thing to load up. A lot of different topics that you can run through. Why buy gold and silver? Buying tax exempt bullion in Singapore. Why silver bullion? Why us? There's actually a lot of good reasons why us. Bullion genuinity guarantee, especially for you guys who store overseas. Let me ask you this: the vault that you're storing with, have they ever tested your gold and silver to let you know that it actually is gold and silver? And not very many vaults do this, but we are one of the vaults that will go ahead and check your gold and silver and make sure it is what we say it is and it is what you bought. So that's something that you always want to be aware of and make the right choice when it comes to especially storing overseas, because it's not easy to let that metal go. I know it is, and some guys will absolutely not let it go. Completely understand that sentiment as well. And going to the Twitter feed, this I woke up this morning and one of the first tweets I see is a bee. The first tweet I see is about a bee from Greg Manarino. Okay, people, so here they have another thing or way to create fear and panic. The murder hornet. Have you guys heard of? Have you heard of this? The murder hornet. Supposed to be a pretty big hornet, and it's it's actually, well, I hate to say it, but it's done some damage to people, and apparently now they're trying to tell you that this thing is coming on over the east coast. So what the heck is this? It's about a bee of all things, as if we don't have enough things to be concerned about, right? Hey, okay, giant murder hornet is in U.S. to stay. Will eventually reach East Coast. Experts say, are they dangerous? Absolutely. Oh my God. Ex New York Police Department, NYPD Police Department beekeeper says. Okay, that kind of threw me off a bit. So it's not a matter of if, but when the murder hornet will hit the East Coast. Experts warn deadly meat eating Asian giant hornet, which has been known to kill up to 50 people a year in Japan, recently surfaced for the first time in the U.S. in Washington state. And New York City beekeepers say there is no way it won't make its way here. And with that hornet there. And then we got Luke Groven, who's going to be coming up, and he makes a good point where he says, regardless of the cause, once you get to the fiat can't buy you food portion of the movie, you have entered potentially dangerous territory. Not something I relish, but a fact nonetheless. Okay, well, we're going to these things are really starting to unfold. Then we have Ron Paul. If a picture says 1,000 words, this one says 30 million. Let's take a quick peek at what Ron is saying here.
National. It's been
Let me start from the beginning. Okay.
I want to put a chart up here to show a little bit about what we'll be talking about today, because this is so dramatic. Just look at this. That line across the bottom is a representation of the number of people who are on unemployment. And something happened just a few weeks ago. There's no gradual disintegration of our economy or something happened there, but this is an explosion. And the way we look at this is that is a couple causes, and one, the stage is set always for this type of a economic system that we have today is set in place by a monetary authority, the central bank, the Federal Reserve. They inflate too much, they keep interest rates lower than normal, and they create a bubble, and the bubble always bursts. So we've been anticipating, quite frankly, I've been anticipating a collapse in what we're witnessing today, but I didn't know it would be so big and so dramatic. But it's there, and it's explainable. But it's also related. We have the Fed creating the bubble. We know the bubble bursting was coming, but there was another incident that helped this along and made it worse and made that curve a little bit more dramatic, and that was the systematic attack on American liberty to compensate for a very serious problem going on. So the attack, of course, was those people who hyped up the danger of coronavirus. We know there was a danger. We know diseases have been around for a long time. We know a little bit about, immunity. We know about natural immunity. We know about vaccines. And yet this approach this time has not been all that rational. It's been the negative message has been extreme. So the curve that we showed there is the equation is a bubble.
Yeah, I'll stop that one there for now. But Ron Paul, he's talking about the fear mongering, just like this bee story. Really, what's going on nowadays? It's like, can you even go outside anymore? And it's I admit it's the same for me. My personal experience, I go outside and it feels like the air feels weird. I don't know if it feels more sticky or something with the air feels a bit more weird, and I'm trying to figure it out. And I end up telling myself, the air feels weird because you haven't gone out in a while. So that's why the air feels weird, or at least that's what I'm saying. So let's see. take a look at some of your comments. I saw some comments about the Dr. Fauci, and let me see if I can find where it is again. But some guys feel he's, but they're not sure which side he's playing on. That's one part of it for sure. But yeah, I don't know if we're ever going to know. But there is one good question from Hassan where he says, "Will there ever be a free market ever again?" And what do you guys think? I'm saying no. I mean, I don't think we've had a free market at least back until 2008. I think the market was already captured. It was no longer a free market. I think when we had a lot of that crony capitalism going on, capitalism basically was gone for 99% of us and a game for the other 1%, where who can outmaneuver who. But capitalism, no, I'm not seeing it coming back. That's I'm just not seeing it coming back. Um, let's see a few more comments. We'll take a look at. Anyway, okay. Well, you guys got some good conversations going on. I'll let that go for now. But back to I want to go back to these Twitter feeds. Nomi Prince. The consequences of the U.S. China rupture go far beyond economics. Completely agree with this. A decisive shift in the balance of global power, ushering in a new Cold War, could well be at hand. And I'm going to open an article, and it can be a little bit polarizing, but just try and stick with it with an open mind if you can, because this article straight from the get go, it does a bit biased one way, but again, it's we got to keep an open mind, right, as best we can. So it starts off by saying the end of the U.S. China relationship, and it is a pretty dicey relationship right now. The author, Stephen Roach, starts off by saying, from an unnecessary trade war. So straight away, some people feel it was necessary to renegotiate. Some people, like this author, feel it was unnecessary. So straight away, this is a dividing statement. But let's just go through it anyway. To an increasingly desperate coronavirus war, two angry countries are trapped in a blame game with no easy way out, and this is true. Now more than ever, both sides need to contemplate the economic and geopolitical consequence of a full rupture. Out of New Haven, it didn't have to end this way, but the die is now cast. After 48 years of painstaking progress, a major rupture of the U.S. China relationship is at hand. This is a tragic outcome for both sides and for the world. Again, I completely agree with this. From an unnecessary trade war to an increasingly desperate coronavirus war, two angry countries are trapped in a blame game with no easy way out. Nationalistic American public is fed up with China, according to a new poll where 66% of U.S. citizens now view China as an unfavorable light, 6 points worse than last summer and the highest negative reading since Pew introduced this question some 15 years ago. And to be fair, an equally nationalistic Chinese public is also irate at the United States. That is not just because President Trump insisted on dubbing a global pandemic the Chinese virus. It's also because whispers turn into shouts, leaking the outbreak of COVID-19 to alleged suspicious activities at the Wuhan National Biosafety Laboratory. So two countries, definitely not seeing eye to eye, and it's the world. It's everyone in the world is going to pay the price for this if these two countries go at it. But just as more, just as most children are taught that two wrongs don't make a right, tit for tat blame does not justify severing the world's most important bilateral relationship. Exactly, exactly. We got to think a little bit bigger and better. But the time for dispassionate logic is over. We must instead contemplate the harsh consequences of this rupture, Both economies entwined in a deeply embedded codependency will be hurt. China stands to lose its largest source of foreign demand at a time when exports still account for 20% of its GDP. But then again, let's remember China is more of a consumption economy, and so is the U.S. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. It will also lose, excuse me, access to U.S. technology components required to advance indigenous innovation. Excuse me, and the loss of a currency anchored to the U.S. dollar could lead to greater financial instability. But the consequences will similarly be problematic for the U.S., which will lose a major source of low cost goods that income constrained consumers have long counted on to make ends meet. So I'll end that one. I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about it because, it is true. We're going tit for tat right now. This author is calling it somewhat of a Cold War, or Nomi Prince, I believe, was calling it somewhat of a Cold War. And it can be a dangerous thing. Like I said, we have to think a little bit bigger. We have to think a little bit better. It's The world is more than just one or two countries right now. Not saying globalization is the thing, just saying that we got to look at the consequences, and it's not just for the people here and now. It's also for our future generations. So think a little bit bigger. Think a little bit better. There's got to be a way to figure this thing out, right? So let's see what some of these comments are. Okay, let me scroll down through this. Eh, okay, this is okay. Hang on, just checking through comments real quick in case I missed anything. Um, okay, all right. I guess haircuts are coming. Dennis Martell. You got a double meaning there, huh? Haircuts are coming. Yeah, we're all gonna take a haircut, and probably we all need a haircut. So that's a good one. I like that. That's a good one. We're all gonna have to take that haircut soon. We're very, very, very soon. So let's see. Uh, MP. That's pretty interesting. General Flynn is about to be pardoned. Comey, Brennan, Chopper, possibly Obama charges. Whoa, that's. We'll have to save that one for another day. But I think you're definitely going to get a lot of responses to your comment there. It's That's a whole nother topic, whole nother another ball game with what's going on with that thing. But again, it's something you can't stay blind to. You gotta stay awake to as many things as you can. And going back to that Twitter feed from our friend Chris Marcus at Arcadia Economics, he says, "Well, this is interesting." And take a look at it. I think some of you may have come across this already. I'll go ahead and open it up, and it's almost like their comics is preparing for something, or the CME Group anyway. CME Group secures billion, 7 billion credit facility to protect against the clearing member default. Why would you do this unless you think somebody's going to default on you, right? CME Group disclosed last week that it agreed to an amendment that gives the commodity exchange company a 7 billion multi-currency credit facility. The company said the 364-day amended facility is intended to provide liquidity. We're always hearing that word, provide liquidity in the event of a clearing member default, a liquidity constraint or depository default, or in the event of a delay in the payment system utilized by CME. So CME there to something once again. Catherine Austin Fitz talking about oil and how it's basically a geopolitical shift or a geopolitical reset in disguise. She made a good point there. And then we have the Fed. Of course, we know the Fed came out and they had their meeting, which we're gonna get into. In fact, maybe I should kind of get into that now. Let me go ahead and get into that now. Some things that Jerome Powell has said.
The forces that we as a country are taking to control the spread of the virus have brought much of the economy to an abrupt halt. Many businesses have closed, people have been asked to stay home, and basic social interactions are greatly curtailed. People are putting their lives and livelihoods on hold, at significant economic and personal cost. All of us are affected, but the burdens are falling most heavily on those least able. It is worth remembering that the measures we are taking to contain the virus represent investment in our individual and collective health. As a society, we should do everything we can to provide relief to those who are suffering for the public good. While many standard economic statistics have yet to catch up with the reality we're experiencing, it's clear that the effects of on the economy are severe. Millions of workers are losing their jobs. Next week's jobs report is expected to show that the unemployment rate, which was at 50-year lows just 2 months ago, has surged into double digits. Household spending has plummeted as people stay home, and measures of consumer sentiment have fallen precipitously. Hotels, airlines, restaurants, department stores, and other retailers have been particularly hard hit. Manufacturing output fell sharply in March and is likely to drop even more rapidly this month, as many factories have temporarily closed. Overall, economic activity will likely drop at an unprecedented rate in the second quarter. Inflation is also being held down, reflecting weaker demand as well as significantly lower energy prices. Both the depth and the duration of the economic downturn are extraordinarily uncertain and will depend in large part on how quickly the virus is brought under control. The severity of the downturn will also depend on the policy actions taken at all levels of government to cushion the blow and to support the recovery when the public health crisis passes.
Okay, so a few things that Powell has said. The forceful measures that we as a country are taking to control the spread of the virus have brought much of the economy to an abrupt halt. Yeah, we're seeing that. It is worth remembering that the measures we are taking to contain the virus represent an investment in our individual and collective health. Uh, Interesting choice of words that he used there. Containing the virus represents an investment in our individual and collective health. Um, I agree in the sense that you need both in order to have a healthy economy, you need a healthy population. If you don't have a healthy population, very difficult or nearly impossible to have a healthy economy. So the health of the people is number one, without a doubt. And other things he had to say was the jobs report will show unemployment claims have surged into double digits. Household spending has plummeted. Consumer sentiment has fallen. Retailers hard hit. Manufacturing looking to drop rapidly. Overall economy activity will drop at an unprecedented rate in the second quarter. But hey, this is absolutely wonderful reasons for the stock market to be going up, right? I mean, look at all of those wonderful things he just said. Yeah, stock market should definitely be going up when you have all of those things going on, right? And this is a kind of the frustrating part because I see this as remember back in the 90s, early 2000s, everyone was getting home. Basically, everybody was getting home. And what did you do? I'm sure some of you guys out there did this. You had your rich uncle slip some money into your bank account. And when you went to talk to your mortgage broker, he looked at your bank account and he said, thumbs up, you got a lot of money in there. Perfect. And then what did you do? After you got that loan for your home, you gave your uncle back his money, right? So you kind of fudged it. You know, I know some of you guys out there did this. You fudged it, you slipped some money in your bank account to get the loan for the home, and then you gave it back to your uncle. Well, okay, if you got your home, great, congratulations. But no problem with that. Here's the problem. Fast forward today. The Fed is doing the same thing. They're slipping money in all of these corporate accounts, company accounts, whatever it is. And then they're having you believe it by seeing the stock market go up. You know, so in other words, you and I now we're like that mortgage broker where okay, this company's balance sheet looks a lot better, or okay, he has cash, he has liquidity, it looks better. So hey, I'll buy this stock, I'll buy that stock, I'll buy this stock, I'll buy that, buy that, buy that. But it's BS. You know, this is no different from what a lot of people did back in the 90s when they slipped some money into their bank account to be able to get the loan for the house. Today, we're seeing the Fed throwing money all over the place, making you believe that the economy is doing a bit better, making you believe that the stock market is rebounding. So For any analysts out there, if you guys are saying the market is rebounding, come on, it come on. Why is it rebounding? Why is it this whole V-shaped thing? And no, we're not. I'm not having it, and I know a lot of you guys out there aren't having it either. There is no recovery. There's no recovery, and you can go back to 2008, 2011 with the first QE. We saw it go up, came right back down, and then we're seeing it go up again as far as the companies getting in trouble and the amount of the Fed's balance sheet. So I'm not buying it, and I don't think anybody else out there should buy it too, because like I said, the Fed is throwing money all over the place. They're stuffing money in people's pockets, giving you maybe 1,200. Is that really going to help? So they're throwing money all over the place, making us believe certain things. And for me personally, I'm not having it. And I know you guys out there, you know how this game works already. You know how it's played. You've seen it, and we're all continuing to see it over and over and over again, over again. Let me see here. Cheese mouse, no recovery, only bankruptcy. Absolutely. And that's what we're going to get into very shortly. We're going to get into bankruptcy. And it's an important topic because there's a lot of things that get sucked down that drain when a company or even a person goes bankrupt. A lot of things go down that drain with it. So I want to take a look at another thing that Powell had said. Both the depth and the duration of the economic downturn are extraordinarily uncertain and will depend on large part on how quickly the virus is brought under control. Okay, I think we saw that part. I want to go to another thing that Paul said. This one really caught my attention.
The Federal Reserve's response is guided by our mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people, along with our responsibilities to promote the stability of the financial system. We're also committed to using our full range of tools to support the economy in this challenging time.
Okay, break that one down. This one is important. Powell said the Fed's response is guided by their mandate. This is true. Their mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. That's their mandate. And then he says, along, well, who said this along thing? What is this now? Along with our responsibilities, plural, to promote the stability of the financial system, we are also committed to using our full range of tools in this challenging time. Is this part of their mandate? Their mandate starts off, or is, and only is, promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. And they may be so-called the lender of last resort, but I tell you what, if you're the lender of last resort, that means you're the owner. You're the owner in the sense that if that person defaults, you own it. So when you look at all these things, the Fed truly is buying everything up. Without question, they're buying everything up. So again, I ask you, is this part of their mandate where, along with our responsibilities to promote the stability of the financial system, we are also committed to using our full range of tools in this challenging time? I'm saying outside of mandate, and I'm saying this because once they get involved and you no longer have true price discovery or anything else like that, once they get involved, capitalism is gone. When they try to keep some companies alive and others fail, capitalism is gone. You no longer have that true capitalism, and our own bank, our own central bank has killed or is killing capitalism right now, to where there's going to be a consolidation of just a few companies while others are going to fail. And but again, is that part of their mandate to go ahead and do that? Let's take a look at some of your questions questions here, or comments, I should say. Uh, let's see. Fed is backed up by nothing. Yeah, Harster of Corcosa, good point. Jim Grant, the Fed is now both arsonist and firefighter, and he's right. He's definitely right. That's what the Fed is doing, some incredible things right now, and I don't necessarily mean incredible in a positive way. I will go back to Ben Bernanke. A lot of people didn't agree with what he did. Uh, he Had he let things go, it would be a very different place today. He kicked the can down the road, kept it alive. It gave a lot of us, it gave a lot of you and me people, regular people, time to go ahead and get things like gold and silver, to see things for what they are, to prepare. So in a sense, you know, I kind of in a way I'm kind of thankful what Bernanke did, because he gave a lot of people a lot more time. But this time around with Jerome Powell, it's very very different. The Fed is just it's just really buying up everything, everything right now. So let's take a look at what else Jerome Powell had to say.
Last month, we quickly lowered our policy interest rate to near zero. We stated then and again today that we expect to maintain interest rates at this level until we're confident that the economy has weathered recent events and is on track to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Of course, lowering interest rates cannot stop the sharp drop in economic activity caused by closures and other forms of social distancing. And low rates will not effectively spur the economy if those rates do not feed through to broader financial conditions or if households and businesses are unable to get credit. The economic disruptions caused by the virus created tremendous strains in some essential financial markets and have impaired the flow of credit in the economy. Without access to credit, families can be forced to cut back on necessities and could lose their homes. Businesses can be forced to downsize or close, resulting in further losses of jobs and incomes and worsening the downturn. Preserving the flow of credit is thus essential for mitigating the damage to the economy and setting the stage for the recovery. We have been taking broad and forceful actions to these ends. To support the flow of credit to households and businesses, foster smooth market functioning, and promote effective transmission of monetary policy to broader financial conditions, we have been purchasing large amounts of Treasury and agency mortgage-backed securities. The markets for these securities play a critical role in the economy, and they came under great stress last month as the scale of economic disruption became clearer and as investors clamored for liquidity. Our purchases have helped market conditions improve substantially in recent weeks. In light of this improvement, we have slowed our pace of purchases. We will continue our purchases of Treasury and agency mortgage-backed securities as needed.
Okay, well, Powell says we expect to maintain interest rates at this level until we are confident that the economy has weathered recent events and it is on track to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Well, there's a problem with that, and I'll show you guys what this problem is. When we take a look at the Fed balance sheet, and sorry, it's a bit lopsided here. See if I can fix that. Okay, so when we take a look at the Fed's balance sheet, and I'll just use this little tool here to help point some things out. This part here, the very beginning of the 2000, actually QE, when QE was, well, actually QE was down here a bit, but when we had the Great Recession back here, 2007, 2008, 2009, this is what we saw, right? Which looks very similar to what we see here. Hang on, let me just clear this guy up. Sorry about that. Very similar to what we see here, anyway. Okay, so these two guys look very, very similar. Where during this time we saw the Fed balance sheet jump from a trillion to two trillion. It doubled, and here we are. Here we see 4 trillion, and if this doubles the same way this did, we're looking at 8 trillion. And I think this is why you hear some guys they're saying 8 trillion, 9 trillion, 10 trillion before year's end. But whatever they're looking at, this part is to me more interesting. When you look at when it finally finished, I mean, when they thought they weathered it or whatever the word is he wants to use, you're looking at 2 trillion all the way up to 4 trillion. So again, it doubled. Okay. And if we just use this as some type of a guideline, it's not perfect, but some type of a guideline, it doubles here. So this 4 trillion should be 8 trillion. And then it's going to double again, which would put it at 16 trillion. So if Jerome Powell is talking about, you know, the storm, so to speak, and when he thinks things are going to, they're going to reach their goals or targets or whatever it is, just using that as a base, we're looking at 16 trillion. And that's a long way to go. And a lot of things can happen between now and 16 trillion. Gary Olson, get rid of the Fed. Evil. Yeah, it's a lot of people want to end the Fed. Mark Hill, all world wars happened after the Federal Reserve started in 1913. It's a good point as well. A lot of guys say the bankers, they were on two sides of the war. I mean, whoever was fighting, the bankers were taking up both sides. So that's another good point. Another one, Tony, Warren Buffett just dumped all his airline stocks. So a lot of people are trying to read the tea leaves on this one. What does it mean? Well, straight away, first thing it means is airlines are in trouble. But where's he going to put it? Some guys are thinking he may go back into precious metals again. But we'll see what happens with Warren Buffett. Calhoun, Busby, one day massive inflation is coming. That is true. A lot of people they say the deflation and whatnot, and then the inflation. Even if that's the case, we go through deflation first. That inflation is going to come, and when it comes, I don't think this is going to be something that I think it will. That would be the last straw for sure. The pieces would definitely have to be wiped off the board and a new game started over again if it got to that point. So I guess, strategically, if it gets to that point and you have to start over, then you may also start over at some point before you get to that point because that's really toward the end. So, a lot of things are going to change, without a doubt. Um, let's see. Mark Hill, why don't they offer a debt jubilee instead of printing currency? You know, a lot of people they do look at this. That is another way of saying, okay, you know what, let's all start over. Everybody, we're going to, it's like Monopoly, right? You're given a certain amount before you start the game. So, okay, we'll wipe everything out, start a new game. Everybody's given a certain amount or whatever it is, but let's all start fresh. That is what a lot of people are looking at. It's even what some people are hoping, where a lot of people have really taken on a lot of debt, and they're hoping that this jubilee does come along, and they don't have to pay whatever it is that they owe. Um, so a lot of different ways to look at this. And then there's another thing that Paul said. I'll play a little bit more of Paul, and then we'll be done with the purple tie guy.
We are also undertaking programs to provide stability to the financial system and to more directly support the flow of credit in the economy for households, for businesses of all sizes, and for state and local governments. These programs benefit the economy by providing financing where it is not otherwise available. In addition, by serving as a backstop to key credit markets, the programs can improve market functioning by increasing the willingness of private lenders to extend credit. Many of these programs rely on emergency lending powers that are available only in very unusual circumstances, such as those we find ourselves in today. We are deploying these lending powers to an unprecedented extent, enabled in large part by the financial backing and support from Congress and the Treasury. We will continue to use these powers forcefully, proactively, and aggressively until we're confident that we are solidly on the road to recovery. I would stress that these are lending powers and not spending powers. The Fed cannot grant money to particular beneficiaries. We can only make loans to solvent entities with the expectation that the loans will be repaid. Many borrowers will benefit from our programs, as will the overall economy. But for many others,
Yeah, I'll just go into some of the things he said. Powell says undertaking programs to provide stability to the financial system directly support the flow of credit for household businesses of all sizes and state and local governments, provide financing where none is available, increase the willingness of private lenders to extend credit. So no matter how much money they were giving the banks still weren't giving it to people, right? And he also says we will use our powers. I'm always interested when they say this word powers. I mean, powers to me is it's like a supernatural thing the way they talk. But we will use our powers until we are confident we are on the road to recovery. We can only make loans to solvent entities with the expectations these loans will be repaid. Remember that. Remember that. This is why I say the Fed is buying everything, lender of last resort, whatever you want to call it. When a company or whoever got that loan messes up, goes to the Fed. That's the collateral. The Fed cannot give money unless there is collateral attached to it. And that's why I will often ask people, what if the U.S. has to nationalize its natural resources and use that as collateral, which means the Fed basically will be buying up the country as well. But this is a bit down the road when we start seeing, or if we start seeing countries nationalizing, especially resources, then it's stepped into a whole nother arena at that point. And elected officials make decisions where to tax and spend. And that part is true. It goes back to some of you guys said crony capitalism. It goes back to, if you're a big company, you employ a lot of people, the politician's going to keep you afloat. If you're a small company, you don't do much, you didn't vote for me, you didn't contribute to my campaign, politician's not going to keep you afloat. And we're going to see a lot of these things happening without doubt. So let's see. Hosur of Carcosa again. Purple Tie is a pyromaniac who gets paid to fight the fires he starts. Yeah, Fed has been starting a lot of fires for sure. Let's see what other comments are out there. Okay, going through it real quick. I'm trying to just see what else you guys got to say. Um, let's see. Okay. Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay. So you guys are doing pretty good there. So anyway, what I'm going to get into is this thing about politicians. They're going to pretty much decide who sinks or swims and things like that. And I came across this article where because this is kind of what happens. Hawaiian Airlines receives first installment of PSP money to issue U.S. government warrants to buy stock. So maybe this is one of the companies Buffett dumped. Who knows? Okay, so this is kind of how it plays out. So Hawaiian Airlines or Hawaiian Holdings, the parent company, disclosed last week that it received on April 22nd the first installment of the payroll support program under the CARES Act of 146 million. That is half of the expected total of 292.5 million under the terms. This is the part under the terms. The airlines agreed not to conduct involuntary furloughs or cut employees' pay or benefits through September 30, limit executive compensation to March of 2022, to suspend dividend payments and stock repurchases through 2021, and they also agreed to issue the U.S. government warrants to buy a total of just under 500,000 shares of common stock. And so basically, government is getting a percentage, or government is getting ownership. And that's kind of what is happening when these monies come into companies and whatnot. They are also losing some of their I shouldn't say losing. The government is taking over in some ways. The government is gaining shares. And we take a look at another company. Diamond Offshore files for bankruptcy citing price war. So we know oil companies are taking a hit. And so here we go, bankruptcy. If politicians aren't bailing out their favorite companies, and or we're going to have companies going bankrupt. So Diamond Offshore Drilling filed for bankruptcy protection in Texas on Sunday after the company recently skipped making an interest payment and said it had retained restructuring advisors. Keyword, interest payment. That's all it was. They just skipped making an interest payment. So the Houston based contract drilling company's filing said day rates and demand for its services have worsened precipitously this year amid a price war. And we went over this price war a couple times with Saudi, Russia. Uh, I tell you, it runs deeper than what we think. Uh, so anyway, the price war between OPEC and Russia and the steep drop in oil demand caused by the pandemic. So this company, Diamond Offshore, filed for bankruptcy protection, and it had to gain restructuring advisors. And let's see, the company's filing one of 15 of its group companies seeking protection under Chapter 11, said day rates. Okay, okay. Basically, this company filed for bankruptcy, and again, we are going to see more of these things coming down. And let's just see if we can take a peek at what this gentleman had to say. There may be a commercial in the beginning, so we may have to deal with like 10 seconds of advertisements or commercials, whatever it may be. Um, so let's just see if we can get through this real quick. I think basically what he's saying
bankruptcy is part of the path forward
okay.
for retail.
Well, you have to say that retailers that were doing poorly going into this crisis are highly unlikely to come out in any better shape than they were going in. In fact, there's a host of them that may not even make it out of this crisis. If their business strategies weren't successful several months ago, what is it that they can do to improve their outlook? And of course, retailers with problematic debt are in a tremendous form of distress just because of the crisis that being shut down poses. And the third issue, which everyone faces, is the enormous risk attendant with no one being able to predict when the economy will open up, to what degree it'll open up,
right.
where it'll open up, and of course, how will customers respond to stores being reopened?
Right.
Will they show up? Will they have any money to spend? All unknowns.
Absolutely. I guess, what's interesting right now about the bankruptcy question is, they can't have liquidation sales right now. So as Courtney and others have reported, a lot of these companies, even those on the brink, are waiting for the economy to reopen just so they can liquidate. So then you might have a rush where everyone wants to be the first one to do so. And if not, maybe, that sale doesn't go as well and there's less left over for the stakeholders. If bankruptcy is not a real option, or if there's companies who are obviously looking for other paths, what other paths are there? Are there distressed debt funds? Could there be a major retail buyer who consolidates a lot of this? Is there any other path forward that you see?
Well, I don't think anything stops a company from filing or being forced to file inside of this crisis. It's impossible to proceed through going out of business sales because stores are closed. At the end of it all, we're going to see.
Okay, so this thing is it's kind of breaking up a bit. So let me see if I can we'll just continue on with what we were going to say. So he's kind of saying there's a lot of companies that are going to be in trouble and bankruptcies are going to be on the rise. Sorry about that. That feed wasn't that good. A lot of people staying home, so a lot of bandwidth being used up, I guess. Bankruptcies are going to be on the rise, and we're in the process of reinflating the markets. And you best believe the politicians and the Fed have already chosen who they will bring back from the grave and who they are going to let get buried. And so let's go ahead and take a look at some of these smaller companies that are in or have been getting in trouble lately. Okay, so let's take a quick at that. So we from Forbes. Sorry about that, guys. It's just lagging on my end a bit. List of retail companies on bankruptcy watch is growing fast amid the crisis. And, some of these companies, 45 states, it's widespread. You're seeing Capri Holdings, a little bit upscale, Dillard's, J.C. Penney, it's more mainstream, middle class, Kohl's, Levi Strauss, Macy's, Nordstrom, Signet, not familiar with this company too much anyway. Tapestry, you're seeing a lot of household companies that are basically going bankrupt right now. And in addition, you're seeing the gap. And to add insult to industry, the S&P moved Macy's from its stellar S&P 500 to the S&P small cap 600 list. And Fitch's credit downgrade its model assumed these nine retailers would not open until mid May and that revenues would fall by a stunning 90%, assuming a limited shift of sales to digital channels. The credit agency also assumed that sales at these retailers would remain down double digits in 2020. So you can see this is really going to have pretty big effect. So, again, the Fed, the politicians, they're going to pick and choose who's going to win. And in an interview a couple weeks back, we had Jim Rogers. He actually mentioned that. And it was noted that the winning companies will be those that support politicians and keep people employed. And after all, a politician will not win their state if people are not employed. So let me take a look at some of the comments um, where we're at. Where are we at right now? Um, okay, let's see. Okay, a lot of you guys talking about the Jubilee. I mean, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say. You don't want to assume that this Jubilee is going to happen. Just pile on in debt and whatnot, and then expect it to be forgiven. I think that's kind of risky. But if it works for you, I mean, if it works for you, it works for you. I'm just not so sure that they will go to the Jubilee route. Uh, I think just as Faith said, they'll give you debtor's prison. And so that's something we got to watch out. I came across an article maybe half a year ago where they were actually bringing back debtors' prisons or debtors' prison. So, you know, um, you it's hard to assume things right now, and but you have to assume, you have to kind of try and guess what they're going to do, but that is on the table. I did see articles about half a year ago or so about debtors prisons coming back. So be a bit be a bit careful about that. And so we were talking about this part here. A politician will not win their state if people are out of work in their state. And having said that, well, what if a politician's state actually goes bankrupt? Can a state go bankrupt? Can a state legally go bankrupt? And why? Why would a state go bankrupt? And so to answer that question, which is pretty interesting, you got to go back to the last crisis, the Great Recession. So let me pull up this article here. So can states escape pension obligations through bankruptcies? And here's the thing. Will they do this to escape pension obligations? And I was really trying to avoid pensions, but everything led back to it when you talk about bankruptcies. So here you go. Can states escape pension obligations through bankruptcy? This came back January 2011. A number of states face major unfunded liabilities. Again, this is 2011, and it's even worse today in their public employee pension plans, including these covering teachers. But getting out of those obligations is not easy, as we've reported. Plans for currently enrolled employees have been shielded by state constitutions and regarded by the courts as contracts between the state and employees, which cannot be broken because a lot of states by constitution are required to have a balanced budget. This is part of the contract. But apparently, there's some interest in Congress in offering states an escape route, allowing them to declare bankruptcy in federal court. And this is what we need to watch, because it's not just companies going bankrupt, people going bankrupt. You got to be careful for states now going bankrupt. The story points out that states currently are prevented from seeking protection in federal bankruptcy court because they're considered sovereign entities, unlike cities. Any effort to change that status could face serious constitutional hurdles. Yet, federal lawmakers, again, this is back in 2011, have grown increasingly worried that states could soon seek federal bailouts to resolve their budget woes, such as General Motors. House Republicans have shown an interest in changing the law to allow states to declare bankruptcy, and senators from both parties have also become curious about federal options. So, let me just run through this a little bit more, see what else is out there. In the state, numerous governors and lawmakers have raised concerns about the cost of teachers' pension programs, goes back to pensions, and have pledged to cut those expenses by reducing benefits and raising required payments for future employees if they are legally barred from changing benefits for those who are currently enrolled. So this is kind of what it's about, where states are looking at possibly going bankrupt. So, and again, as much as I was trying to avoid the topic, of pensions, all roads, pretty much all roads, and I do mean all roads, go back to pensions. We've come full circle to what we've discussed before. Pensions. Pensions would be why a state goes bankrupt, and who are the states in trouble. We'll take a look at that. Um, it again, you have companies, politicians are choosing which companies are going to survive and which aren't. And then you have people, people are being given $1,200 a month. It's not going to cut it. I mean, you're going to have people that are going bankrupt. And then now we're looking at states. States, they are looking at going bankrupt as a way to not pay you your pension. And so who are these states that are actually in a bit of trouble? Let me take a look at this. Take a look at some of these states here. So is your money safe? These states are getting hit the hardest by the pension crisis. Okay, so we'll go through this. I think this was this was last year, late last year. Okay, so it always seems to come up. Let me make this a bit bigger for you guys. I know the text is kind of small. Okay, so close this guy. As members of the baby boom generation age into retirement, more and more are relying on pension benefits from their main source of income. Millions of aging teachers, firefighters, sanitation workers, and other state and local government employees depend on the income owed to them through defined benefit pension plans. Such plans require employees to contribute a portion of their salaries to a pool of funds that is invested on their behalf and is paid out to them in retirement. Okay, so it's invested in their behalf and paid to them in their retirement. So let's just take a look at some of these states. Wisconsin, very well. You are fully funded, 102%. South Dakota, 100% funded. So pensions, what that means is pensions are fully paid and funded. There is money there for pensions. So we can go down a bit. Let's say Ohio, pretty good, 80% funded. That's good. Georgia, 79.2% funded. Missouri, slightly under 80% funded. But let's take a look at see what some of these trouble states are. California, definitely California. It's under 70% funded. Without a doubt, California is one of those states that is going to be in trouble, if not already. And we'll go down a bit more. Let's just take a look at the top 10 underfunded states, which you keep an eye on. You need to keep an eye on these states. Massachusetts, 60% funded, which means 40% of pensions don't have any money right now. They're underfunded. Pennsylvania, 55%. Hawaii, 54.8%, less than half, getting close to half. Half the pensions are funded, which means half are not. Rhode Island, Colorado. Colorado is under 50%. So Colorado, need to keep an eye on Colorado, keep an eye on Connecticut, Illinois, New Jersey, and number one is going to be Kentucky. Yeah, Kentucky. So these are the states that we're going to need to keep an eye on. Definitely It's troublesome to see this, and as I was saying before, I was trying to avoid this topic. We've come full circle. It does go back to pensions, and especially now with this virus going on, this bug going on, you know, and it being used where inflated numbers of people with the virus or dying from the virus seem to be coming out because states, they get money, they get some relief if they have these deaths from the virus. And this is troubling because states are in trouble, and then we see these numbers inflating, the bug numbers, people who die from the bug, and a lot of guys are calling foul on this. It's not true, and this is also part of the problem that we have right now. So this is something we got to find out what's really going on, because you're never going to get the truth from a politician. You're just not going to get the truth. And we know pensions need to hit a 7% return, and had to they had to go into risky investments to try and get that 7%, because interest rates were so low for so long. They had to move into these risky things. And the thing is, we are seeing companies being bailed out. It's a sure bet pensions went into some of these companies that are being bailed out right now. And these companies putting pensions more at risk, where states simply cannot pay their pension obligations. So where do pensions put money, right? I mean, that seems to be a logical question here. Uh, where do they put? And according to Investopedia, pensions put money in, let's see, it's a pool of funds from the employee invested in the employee's behalf, and the earnings on the investment generate income to the worker upon retirement. For many years, this meant the funds were limited to investing primarily into government securities, investment grade bonds, and blue chip stocks. So let's take a look at some other things here. Today, they increasingly invest in a variety of asset classes, including private equity, real estate, infrastructure, and securities like gold that can hedge inflation. Uh, so, out of these things here, I would take gold and real estate, but I would not be looking at infrastructure, private equity. But anyway, this is where the money goes, and it kind of But when you think about it, you have a pretty good idea where the money's going. Another reason why stock markets cannot fail, why we're seeing this reflating of the stock market, is because your pensions, your 401k, all of these things are in there. And this brings us back to where we are today. We are seeing a lot of legislation moving at breakneck speed. When does Congress move quickly, right? Well, now they're kind of moving quick because of the financial crisis at hand. And we're going to take a look at two bills that are currently in Congress. So before we do that, I just want to touch base with you guys as far as the comments are going. Let's see. Okay, Phoenicians. Let me see what we got here. Okay, hang on. Okay, comments. You guys are okay. Let's see. Hofstra of Carcosa again. I don't think the Fed will touch gold. The banks are their largest partners, contributors, and they have most of the gold. Will the Fed attack itself? Unlikely. Uh, it's a good point. It's a good point there. Let's see what else we got there. Let's see. Okay. Well, all right. Let's get back into this, where these two bills in Congress. Okay. So let's quickly go there. I think this you're going to find interesting. Two bills in Congress: Government Bailout Protection Act. Okay, so we'll take a look what the bill is. Take a look at the text of the bill. As soon as it loads. Okay. So this is what this bill is in Congress: to prohibit the provision of federal funds to state and local governments for payments of obligations, to prohibit the Federal Reserve Banks, the Department of the Treasury, and other federal agencies from financially assisting state and local governments that have defaulted on their obligations, and for other purposes. Okay, so let's take a look at another bill. That was 120, I think it was. Here's another one, HR 4572. So let's take a look at the text of this. To prohibit the provision of federal funds to state and local governments for payment of obligations, to prohibit the Federal Reserve Banks and Department of the Treasury and other federal agencies from financially assisting. Okay, so what this is kind of saying right now is in both and the Senate, you got this bill going on where they're not going to help. The government, the Fed, neither are going to help states with their obligations. Obligations in English, pensions. They're not going to help. So why would this bill come before Congress, and has a state ever gone bankrupt, right? So I mean, these are two things we got to consider. And again, you know, with the Fed throwing money all over the place, it means some guys are going to live, some guys are not going to live, or companies anyway. It means a lot of regular people are going to experience a bit of hardship. And it means that the Fed and government, they are taking ownership of these things. And should these companies default, it goes to the Fed. And this is why you hear people saying the Fed is buying up everything right now. So again, why has the state ever gone bankrupt? So because this came out recently, and it is big news. From Newsweek, has the state ever gone bankrupt? This was just last week, I believe. And I know some of you guys have heard this, and I know you guys have opinions on it also. U.S. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell threw a grenade in the debate over how to plug budget holes punched into the economy by the bug by suggesting that states could declare bankruptcy to give them a fresh start. How do you like that? They can go ahead and declare bankruptcy, but what happens when they declare bankruptcy? Your pensions get sucked down the hole with it, right down the drain. With Congress looking to extend aid to cities and states, the National Governors Association asking for an additional $500 billion, McConnell was asked by radio host Hugh Hewitt about what he thought about letting states declare themselves bankrupt. McConnell says, I would certainly be in favor of allowing states to use the bankruptcy route. It saves some cities, and there's no good reason for it not to be available, McConnell said. My guess is their first choice would be for the federal government to borrow money from future generations and send it down to them now, so they don't have to do that. That's not something I'm going to be in favor of, which is kicking the can down the road again, where your future generations are going to be paying for all this debt that's occurring. McConnell also says, he's revisiting an idea that was mooted out following the Great Recession, although then it was roundly condemned by Wall Street, public employee unions, and governors from both parties concerned about if a risk it would pose to interest rates, according to Bloomberg. Whatever the political calculations of McConnell's sentiment, under current law, state governments cannot use the federal bankruptcy system to recognize or reorganize their debt. The bankruptcy law was amended in 1930s to allow cities, towns, and other jurisdictions within states to make use of federal bankruptcy proceedings under Chapter 9 Bankruptcy Code. However, there can be defaults on debt. 8 states and 1 territory took this route in 1840s. Well, some companies they did, or cities took that route. I think one of the more famous ones was Detroit, where it filed for bankruptcy in 2013. Even if Congress changed the law to allow states to do so, there is constitutional issue, the contracts clause, which may prevent states from declaring bankruptcy and would have to be adjudicated by the courts. So, I mean, let's just, let's just step back and take a look at this. This is where we're at today. And what do? Do we cheer for the Fed to save us, which is what's going on right now? The Fed is supposedly saving us, supposedly. Or do we say, let everything burn down? Let everything burn down, we'll start over. Is it right that people that paid into the system lose it all or part of it, meaning the pensions? Because according to those bills, what's in Congress, it may just be a political thing, but what they're saying is, we're not going to help you. Congress is not going to help. Federal government's not going to help. Federal Reserve is not going to help if states should declare bankruptcy. And this is why, on the flip side, you're seeing states inflating this whole bug uh, issue, bug event thing, where you know they get money for it. I think we all know, we've all seen these articles where they get federal aid, if they have, for these virus deaths and whatnot. This could be a play into that, where they're gonna take money for these things, label everything as being a virus death. Somebody fell down the stairs. Oh, it's the bug, right? Somebody, I don't know, had too many hot dogs, choked on a hot dog, and oh, it's a virus. So we're seeing states do this, and it's being very, very much so inflated right now. And states are in trouble, and they're going to be left on their own to sort their bad budget practices out, or possibly go bankrupt. If the Fed cannot reinflate the market, the pension system is going to go bust. If the Fed cannot reinflate the markets, not only will pensions be gone, so will 401ks, so will jobs, which is what Ron Paul was talking about earlier. And going back to retail, the goods and services industries, those jobs may not come back. Why? Because we're seeing government consolidate. A few businesses are going to make it, other businesses won't. How are employees going to retool themselves? You lost your job, you got to do something, right? So what are you going to do? Maybe you'll go back to school, get a degree, and then we'll see the same thing we saw back in 2008, where people went back to school, taking on student loans with the idea of graduating with a degree and finding a great paying job. Only there's going to be less jobs this time around and more student debt on the books. And in that, well, hang on. Let me, okay, sorry about that. Right now, decisions are being made behind closed doors while you stay behind your locked door. Sorry about that, guys. Conveniently locking yourself up while a wealth transfer is underway with no opposition, no protests in the streets. We're starting to see some of that now. And you've seen just some of the companies that filed for bankruptcy. What happens when it's your company? I mean, I hope it never comes to that, but it does seem to be moving around. Bankruptcies seem to be just as contagious right now. So make no mistake, these choices are being made as to which companies are going to go bankrupt, and we're seeing it. And without question, states are going to be bankrupt alongside companies. Bankrupt companies, bankrupt states means bankrupt pensions. Seems to me, anyway, Congress prefers to bail out big companies and banks rather than states and pensions. That's what it seems like, right? And it can't be any more clear. To get through what is coming, you have to have assets that are going to hold value. You need something that's going to hold value, be a store of value, not paper assets, but true physical liquid assets. Because you look at this thing coming down, it's like a wave. It's just barreling down. There's no there's not going to be an escape. I don't think any of us are going to escape. It's going to affect us in some way. And when the economy crumbles around you, few things like gold and silver are going to keep you afloat. It's to your advantage. It's to your financial livelihood that you understand silver and gold and what they do. And that's the most important part. Just want to take a look at more of your comments here. Sorry about that, guys. Just been trying to get through this presentation here. Uh, okay, so let me see your comments. Okay, Rolf Steiner. There will be no pensions within 5 years. All gone or paid in worthless, inflated fiat. Yeah, Rolf, that's a good point. And in talking with Thomas Molinen, who I hope you folks had a chance to watch this interview. Europe is the same. Europe is not in any better of a situation as far as pensions. I mean, maybe certain countries in Europe are doing a bit better, but overall, Europe is having pension problems as well, just like the States. Some states are doing better, and other states, some serious pension problems. And, this is something all over the world right now. And we got to watch this because, you know, right now, Congress seems to be more interested in bailing out banks and companies and not necessarily the people. And it's a big concern because if we all end up being wards of the state, you can definitely be sure no matter what country you live in, if your state or your country is taking care of you, they're going to set the rules, and you may not have those same freedoms, liberties that you once had. But at least financially wise, if you can do things like get silver and gold or something that stores the value of your currency when these currency crises come into play, because you're outside of the system, these things will store the value of what that currency was. And you can't stress it enough. Gold and silver is more than just the price. Let's see. Tommy from Virginia, all federal, state, and local government pensions are too much for taxpayers to pay. It's true. Plus, they get health benefits paid too expensive. That is true. What are they going to do? They're going to tax you more, or they're going to have to hire more people, creating bigger government, or they're going to have to cut back on services. So something's going to give. And a politician will not get reelected if he cuts back services, if he raises your taxes. He's not going to get reelected, so he's not going to do those things. And this is why they are looking at trying to find a way for states to go bankrupt. And again, this is just something else now we need to be aware of. And again, if these things are going to happen, you need to have something outside of fiat at this point, because fiat is just, it's not going to make it. Everybody knows, fiat eventually goes back to its intrinsic value, which is zero. So you need to have something that's going to store the value of your wealth, for sure. Make sure you folks understand that. Look at a few more comments, and then I'll head out here. Kept you guys for a while. Um, let's see what else is here. Dale Val, try buying at 17. Let me know how that goes. You referring to silver? Trying to buy silver at 17 or whatever it is? I'm trying. Try buying at 17. Not sure. Not sure I understand that. I'm sorry about that. Um, let's see. Yeah, Tammy, correct again. Governments hired too many and offered gold mines to retirees. Offered too much. That's politicians, right? They're gonna tell you, vote for me. I'll give you this, that, this, that, this, that, and then next thing you know, you realize how badly things truly are. Besides their smiling faces, and it's sad, but it's something that we need to always be aware of. Always need to be aware of. So let's see. Let's see. R kick F fate. Okay. Been buying silver at 14 every time and called the drop to 11. You better buy food now. You know, that's a good point. I mean, as much as I like silver, gold, precious metals, things like that, there are reports of food companies shutting down, pork companies, chicken companies, beef companies. So, you know, if you can, it may be a good idea to try and take care of yourself in other types of ways, if you can. So anyway, I've been going through some of these comments. You guys got really great comments, and again, as I've said before, your comments are more important than anything I say, because for people who watch this, it's your comments that help them to decide. They may be on the fence, and when they see your comments, uh, they will listen to that, or give that more account, or more weight than anything that I may be saying. So I always say this: I appreciate your comments, especially the well thought out comments, because there are guys on the fence who need help, who are still trying to make a decision. It's the very rich guys who are still trying to make a decision what they should do, and it's the average Joe trying to make a decision on what they should do. So your comments, you have no idea how helpful and meaningful they are, and I appreciate them, and I know a lot of guys out there appreciate your comments as well. So I'll just take a look at a few more, and then I'll head out. Um, okay, let's see what else is out there. Maybe just one more comment, and then I'll head out. Um, okay, Hoster of Carcosa again. Pensions and credit availability go down the toilet with bankruptcy. They'd rather roll everything over and over for eternity. A rolling loan gathers no loss. Yeah, that is true. Just like all this kicking the can down the road business, right? So anyway, I think I've taken up a bunch of your time. Um, Apologies for the little bit technical, little bit of glitches here and there. It's a new system that we're trying out, so we hopefully we'll get it right, we'll get it correct, and but you guys just stay alert, stay safe. Stay safe. There are people who are getting sick. Are the numbers real? It looks it's I don't think all the numbers are real. You're hearing too many guys who are saying, you know, states or whatnot. There, everything seems to be a bug death and whatnot. So, but just stay alert on things. Stay alert on the news. Try and decipher what's real, what's not real, and again, find that store of wealth because this thing is going to hit home. It's going to hit people in the wallet. It's going to hit people in the bank account. So you want to make sure that you have that store of wealth when this thing really starts to hit those areas. And again, more more than ever, it's really important to have these assets outside of fiat. Um, Not financial advice, professional or otherwise. It's just me offering my opinion and also me saying, letting you know what I do as well. So you do what you got to do, protect and provide. Definitely have to do that, and within that realm, try and be a blessing, not a burden, because there are going to be a lot of people who are going to need help, and some of them are watching you guys right now with your comments. So again, appreciate what you do, appreciate you being here, and you guys take care of each other. And as always, saddle up for what's coming ahead and silver up as well. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.